Why did my father and sister laugh on the porch and tell me I was homeless the moment I came back from overseas? They said my home was sold to cover my sister's debts, like it was a funny family story. I smiled, asked what was so funny, and watched their faces change when I calmly said the house actually belonged to someone they never expected. The airport curb felt like the edge of something I couldn't name yet. I stood there with one duffel bag, watching taxis pull away, and I told myself this was normal. Coming home was supposed to feel like this. Quiet. A little strange. Not warm, but not cold either. I called Troy, my father. He picked up on the fourth ring. Julian? I'm at the airport. Oh, right. Today. He sounded distracted. Listen, I'm tied up. Can you grab a ride? I didn't answer right away. I let the silence sit there. Julian? Yeah, I'll figure it out. He hung up before I could say anything else. I took a rideshare to the old neighborhood. The driver didn't talk much, which was fine. I watched the streets go by and tried to remember what it felt like to live here. The trees were bigger. The paint on some of the houses looked fresh. Everything seemed smaller than I remembered. When we turned onto my street, I saw the house. My house. Except there were cars in the driveway I didn't recognize. A silver sedan, a white SUV. The lawn looked trimmed, but the flower bed my mother used to keep was gone. Just mulch now. This the place? The driver asked. Yeah. I paid him and got out. The front door was different, new paint. The porch had been restained. I stood on the sidewalk for a minute, staring at it, trying to understand what I was looking at. Then I heard laughter. Troy and Faye were sitting on the porch, my father and my sister. They were both holding coffee cups, leaning back in the chairs like they owned the place. I walked up the driveway. Faye saw me first. She grinned. Oh my God, Julian's here. Troy turned, and his face didn't change. He just nodded. Hey. I stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. Hey. Faye laughed again. You look confused. I am. Troy took a sip of his coffee. We tried to call you. When? A few times. You didn't answer. I pulled my phone out. There were no missed calls from Troy. None from Faye either. What's going on? I asked. Faye leaned forward, still smiling. Julian, you don't live here anymore. I blinked. What? Troy set his cup down. The house was sold. Sold. Yeah, last month. I looked at Faye. She was still grinning, like this was the funniest thing she'd ever said. Why? I asked. Faye had some debts, Troy said. We needed to cover them. It was the right move. You sold my house. It was the family's house, Troy said. And you weren't here. Faye laughed again. You're technically homeless now. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, looking at both of them. Troy shrugged. Don't be dramatic. We did what we had to do. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, not yet. Just a kind of cold clarity. What's so funny? I asked. Faye's smile faltered. What? You're laughing. What's funny about this? Troy leaned back. You're making this bigger than it is. I looked at the house again. The new door, the fresh paint, the people inside who weren't me. Who bought it? I asked. Some family, Troy said. Nice people. And the money? It's handled, Troy said. Faye's debts are cleared. Everything's fine. I nodded slowly. Okay. Faye frowned. Okay? Yeah. I picked up my duffel bag. Just one question. Troy raised an eyebrow. What? Did you actually check who owned the house before you sold it? His face went still. Faye stopped smiling. I turned and walked back down the driveway. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. I didn't answer. Behind me, I heard Troy say something to Faye, but I didn't stop to listen. I kept walking. I found a rental room on the east side of town, small, clean, cheap enough. The landlord didn't ask questions, which was what I needed. I sat on the bed and stared at the wall. The phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. This time I picked up. Julian Kepler? Yeah. This is Harper Quill from Riverside Title and Escrow. I'm calling about a recent property transaction involving your family. Okay. There's been a question raised about the documentation. I'd like to schedule a meeting to go over some details. What kind of details? Signature verification, ownership chain, standard procedure. When? Next week. I'll send you the information. She hung up. I lay back on the bed and closed my eyes. It had always been like this. Troy treating my service like I was on vacation. Faye calling when she needed money, then disappearing when I asked questions. The pattern was old. I just hadn't seen it clearly before. I remembered the first time Faye asked for help. She'd been 23. Her car had been repossessed. She called me crying, saying she'd lose her job if she couldn't get to work. I sent her the money. A month later, she bought new furniture. When I asked about it, she said I was being controlling. Troy backed her up. Family helps family, Julian. Don't be cold. The second time, it was medical bills. The third time, credit cards. The fourth time, she didn't even explain. She just said she needed it. And I sent it. Because that's what you did. You helped. I got up and walked to the window. The street outside was quiet. A few cars, a dog barking somewhere. I thought about the house. My mother had left it to me. Not to Troy, not to Faye, to me. She'd put it in writing. Troy had been the executor of the estate. He'd handled the paperwork. He'd told me it was all taken care of, that I didn't need to worry about it. I trusted him. That was the mistake. I pulled out my phone and started making a list. Dates, names, amounts, everything I could remember. Faye's debts, Troy's explanations, the power of attorney he'd mentioned once, casually, like it didn't matter. I'm managing things while you're gone, he'd said, just making sure everything stays smooth. I hadn't questioned it. I should have. I spent the next 2 days in the rental room, going through everything. I called the county recorder's office. I asked about property transfers. I kept my tone neutral, like I was just curious. There was a sale last month, the clerk said. Transferred to a family trust. What was the seller's name? Troy Kepler. And the authorization? Power of attorney on file. Can I see that? You'd need to request it in person. Okay, thanks. I hung up and stared at the list I'd made. Troy had used the power of attorney to sell the house. He'd signed my name, or close enough. And Faye had taken the money. I didn't feel angry. Not yet. I felt something colder, cleaner. I called Mason Dre. We'd served together years ago. He'd gone to law school after getting out. Now he worked property disputes and power of attorney cases. Julian, he said. It's been a while. Yeah. What's going on? I told him. Not everything, just enough. He was quiet for a minute. You still have your mother's will? Yeah. Good. Send it to me. What are you thinking? I'm thinking your father made a mistake. I hung up and looked at the calendar. The title meeting was in 5 days. I circled the date in red. I met Mason at a coffee shop on 3rd Street. It was mid-morning, and the place was nearly empty. He was already there, sitting in a booth by the window, reading something on his tablet. Julian. He stood and shook my hand. His grip was firm, steady. Thanks for meeting. Of course. He gestured to the seat across from him. Sit. I did. He slid the tablet across the table. I pulled the documents. Your mother's will is clear. The house went to you, solely. No joint ownership with your father. And the power of attorney? That's where it gets interesting. He tapped the screen. The POA your father filed gives him authority over financial transactions while you were overseas. But it has limits. What kind of limits? It doesn't give him the right to sell property titled in your name, not without your explicit consent. I felt something loosen in my chest. So the sale shouldn't have happened. Not legally. I leaned back. What do I do? You go to the title meeting next week. You bring documentation. You let them explain what they think happened. and then you show them what actually happened. That's it? That's it. Mason folded his hands on the table. The trick is not to tip your hand early. Let them talk. Let them commit to their story. Then you present the facts. Troy's going to fight. Of course he is, but he's not going to win. I nodded. Mason leaned forward. Julian, I need to ask. Are you sure you want to do this? This is your father. I looked out the window. A couple walked by holding hands. They were laughing about something. He sold my house to pay for Faye's mistakes, I said. He didn't ask. He didn't call. He just did it. And when I came home, they laughed at me. Mason nodded. Okay. Then we do this right. I left the coffee shop and walked to the county recorder's building. It was an old brick structure, 3 stories, with narrow windows and a marble lobby that echoed when you walked across it. I went to the records desk and asked for copies of the property transfer documents. The clerk was a tired-looking woman in her 50s. She handed me a form. Fill this out. I did. She disappeared into the back for 10 minutes, then returned with a folder. Here you go. I took it to a table in the corner and opened it. The transfer deed was on top. Seller, Troy Kepler. Buyer, Lenton Family Trust. I flipped through the pages. There was a notarized signature, Troy's. And below it, a second signature that was supposed to be mine. It wasn't. Close. But not mine. I took out my phone and photographed every page. Then I closed the folder and left. That evening, I sat in the rental room and went through everything again. The will, the deed, the power of attorney, the forged signature. I laid it all out on the bed, piece by piece, like a puzzle. Mason was right. Troy had made a mistake, a big one, and now I had proof. I picked up my phone and called him. Julian, he said. What's up? I have everything I need. Good. Don't show your hand until the meeting. I won't. And Julian? Yeah? This is going to get ugly. Be ready. I hung up and stared at the documents. I was ready. Faye was at an open house on Saturday, not the one that used to be mine. A different property, bigger, more expensive. I saw the listing online. Her name was on the sign-in sheet. I drove over. The house was in Meadowbrook, a development on the north side. New construction, clean lines, big windows, the kind of place Faye always said she wanted. I parked across the street and watched people go in and out. Faye came out around 2 in the afternoon. She was wearing a white blazer and dark jeans, her hair pulled back. She looked polished, confident. She was talking to another woman, laughing, gesturing toward the house like she owned it. I got out of the car and walked over. Julian. Faye stopped mid-sentence. Her smile tightened. What are you doing here? Looking around. Here? Why not? The other woman glanced between us. I'll let you two catch up. She walked back toward the house. Faye crossed her arms. You're following me now? No, I saw the listing. And you just happened to show up. Yeah. She shook her head. You need to let this go. Let what go? The house, the sale, all of it. It's done. Is it? Yes. Troy handled everything. It's legal. It's finished. I nodded. Okay. She frowned. Okay? Yeah, if you say so. Julian, don't do this. Do what? This. She waved her hand at me. Acting like you're some victim. You weren't here. You didn't see what was happening. I was drowning, and you were halfway around the world. You could have called. I did call. You never answered. That's not true. It is true. Her voice rose. You were always too busy, always too focused on your own thing, and when I finally needed help, you acted like I was bothering you. I looked at her. Really looked at her. She believed what she was saying. That's what made it so strange. I sent you money, I said. Every time. And you made me feel guilty for needing it. I didn't respond. Faye's expression softened. Look, I'm not trying to fight. I'm just saying, this is for the best, You'll be fine. You always land on your feet. And you? I'm starting over. Clean slate. Good. She hesitated. Troy wants to talk to you. I'm sure he does. He's trying to keep the family together. Is he? Julian, I'll see you at the meeting next week. Her face went pale. What meeting? The title meeting. Harper Quill's office, 10 o'clock. Faye opened her mouth, then closed it. Why are you going to that? I was invited. Julian, please, don't make this harder than it has to be. I turned and walked back to my car. Behind me, I heard her say something, but I didn't stop. I drove to a veteran support office on the south side. It was in an old industrial building, converted into offices. The parking lot was half empty. I sat in the car for a while, thinking. Faye really believed she was the victim, that I'd abandoned her, that Troy had saved her. It was almost impressive, the way she'd rewritten the story in her head. I got out and went inside. The office was small, a few desks, some filing cabinets. A woman at the front desk looked up when I entered. Can I help you? I'm looking for information on legal support, property disputes. Are you a veteran? Yes. She handed me a pamphlet. We have a legal clinic every Thursday. Free consultations. Thanks. I took the pamphlet and left. I didn't need the clinic. I had Mason, but it was good to know the option existed. I drove back to the rental and spent the rest of the day preparing, going over every detail, making sure I hadn't missed anything. By the time the sun went down, I was ready. Troy called on Sunday night. I let it ring 3 times before I answered. Julian? Hey. We need to talk. Okay? Not on the phone? In person? When? Tomorrow. The diner on Oak Street. Noon. All right. He hung up. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the folder Mason had given me. Everything was in order. The will. The property documents. The notarized signature that wasn't mine. I closed the folder and set it aside. The next morning, I woke up early. I couldn't sleep much anyway. I kept thinking about what Troy would say, what excuses he'd make, what version of reality he'd try to sell me. I showered and dressed slowly, deliberately. Every movement felt purposeful, like I was preparing for something bigger than just a conversation. I arrived at the diner 15 minutes early. I wanted to see him walk in. I wanted to watch his face when he saw me already sitting there, waiting. The diner was busy when I arrived. Troy was already there, sitting in a booth near the back. He waved me over. So much for that plan. I slid into the seat across from him. You look tired, he said. I'm fine. You settling in okay? Yeah. A waitress came by. Troy ordered coffee. I asked for water. When she left, Troy leaned forward. I know you're upset. Do you? I get it. This wasn't how you wanted to come home. But you need to understand, I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. Faye was in trouble, Julian. Real trouble. The kind that doesn't go away on its own. So you sold my house. It was the family's house. It was my house. Mom left it to me. Troy's jaw tightened. Your mother left it to the family. No, she left it to me. I have the will. You weren't here, Troy said. You left. You chose to leave. Someone had to manage things. Manage. That's what you're calling it. What would you call it? Fraud. The word hung in the air between us. Troy's face darkened. Watch yourself. Or what? Julian, I'm your father. And I'm your son. But you sold my house without asking me. You forged my signature. You gave the money to Faye. I didn't forge anything. I saw the documents. Then you saw that everything was legal. I saw a signature that wasn't mine. Troy leaned back. His coffee sat untouched in front of him. He stared at it like it might have answers he didn't. You're making a mistake, he said finally. Am I? Yes. You're about to burn a bridge you can't rebuild. I'll take that risk. He stared at me. The meeting on Tuesday. Don't go. Why not? Because you're going to embarrass yourself, and me, and Faye, over nothing. Nothing. It's done, Julian. Move on. I stood up. See you Tuesday. I walked out before he could respond. Outside, the air was cold. I got in the car and sat there for a minute, breathing. Troy was scared. I could see it in his eyes. The way he'd tried to intimidate me. The way his voice had cracked when he said nothing. He knew he was in trouble. Good. I drove back to the rental and spent the rest of the day going over the plan with Mason on the phone. "You're sure about this?" he asked. "Yes. Once we start, there's no going back." "I know." "Okay, I'll be there Tuesday. We'll do this together." "Thanks, Mason." "Don't thank me yet. This is going to be hard." I hung up and stared at the ceiling. Hard. Yes. But necessary. That evening, I went for a walk. The rental was on a quiet street, and the neighborhood was peaceful. Families were sitting on porches, kids were riding bikes, normal life. I thought about what normal used to mean for me. Coming home to my house, my mother's house, the place where I grew up. And now it was gone, sold, given away. Except it wasn't really gone. Not yet. Not if I could help it. I walked for an hour, then went back to the rental. My phone buzzed. Another text from Faye. "Troy told me about your meeting. Please don't do this. We're family." I stared at the message for a long time. Family. That word used to mean something. It used to mean support, trust, loyalty. Now it just meant leverage, a tool they used to justify taking what they wanted. I deleted the message and turned off my phone. Monday was quiet. I spent most of the day in the rental room, going over everything again, making sure I hadn't missed anything. I thought about my mother, about the way she'd always tried to keep the peace, the way she'd mediated between Troy and me when things got tense. She'd wanted us to be a family, but she'd also been clear about the house. She'd put it in writing. She'd made sure I knew it was mine. "This is for you," she'd said. "Not for anyone else. Promise me you'll keep it." I'd promised, and now I was going to keep that promise. I pulled out an old photo album I'd brought with me. Pictures of my mother in the garden. Pictures of me as a kid, playing in the yard. Pictures of holidays and birthdays and normal days that seemed so far away now. In every photo, the house was there in the background, solid, permanent, home. Troy was in some of the pictures too, smiling, looking like a father who cared. But I knew better now. I'd seen what he really was, what he'd always been, maybe. Just better at hiding it back then. I closed the album and set it aside. Mason called in the afternoon. "You ready?" "Yeah." "Good. Remember, let them talk first. Don't interrupt. Don't correct. Just listen." "I will." "And Julian?" "Yeah?" "This is going to be hard. Seeing your father collapse like this. Seeing Faye panic. It's not going to feel good." "I know." "Okay. I'll see you tomorrow." I hung up and stared at the ceiling. He was right. This wasn't going to feel good. But it was going to feel right. I spent the evening organizing my documents one more time. The will, the property records, the photographs of the forged signature, everything laid out in perfect order. I wanted to be able to reach for any piece of evidence without hesitation. I wanted to know exactly where everything was. By the time I finished, it was almost midnight. I lay down on the bed, but I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about the meeting, about what would happen when Harper laid out the facts, about the moment Troy would realize he'd lost. Tuesday morning came cold and clear. I dressed carefully, button-down shirt, dark jeans, nothing fancy, nothing that looked like I was trying too hard. I made myself eat breakfast even though I wasn't hungry. Toast and coffee. I needed to be sharp. I checked my phone. No messages. No calls. Good. I drove to the title company. It was in a low building on the west side, sandwiched between a dry cleaner and a tax office. I parked and sat in the car for a minute, breathing. This was it. The moment everything changed. Then I got out and went inside. The reception area was small, neutral colors, a couple of chairs, a desk with a young woman typing on a computer. "Julian Kepler," I said. "I have a meeting with Harper Quill. She's expecting you. Conference room 2, down the hall, second door on the right." "Thanks." I walked down the hall. The conference room door was open. Harper Quill was already there. 50s. Gray hair pulled back. Professional. She looked up when I entered. "Mr. Kepler." "Julian?" "Please, have a seat." I sat. "We're waiting on a few others," she said. "Your father, your sister, and Tessa Rowe, the listing agent." "Okay." Harper opened a folder on the table. "I want to be clear about why we're here. There's been a question raised about the property transfer, specifically the authorization." "I understand." "Good." The door opened. Faye walked in. She looked nervous. She was wearing a gray sweater and jeans. Her hair was pulled back tight. She sat down without looking at me. A minute later, Troy entered. He was wearing a suit, dark blue, pressed. He nodded at Harper, then glanced at me. His expression was hard. Tessa Rowe came in last. 40s, sharp suit, confident walk. She sat down next to Troy. Harper closed the door. I noticed a small camera on the wall, blinking red. Everything that happened here would be recorded. Perfect. Harper opened the folder in front of her and pulled out a stack of papers. She laid them on the table, neatly aligned. "This meeting is about the property transfer that occurred last month," she said. "Specifically the sale of the residence at 412 Maple Drive." Troy leaned back in his chair. "Everything's in order." "That's what we're here to confirm," Harper said. She looked at me. "Julian, you were listed as the property owner in the county records. Is that correct?" "Yes." "And you authorized your father to act on your behalf through a power of attorney?" "No." Troy stiffened. "That's not true." Harper raised a hand. "Mr. Kepler, please. Let me finish." Troy's jaw clenched, but he stayed quiet. Harper continued. "Julian, you're saying you did not authorize the sale?" "I didn't." "Then how did the transfer occur?" "You'd have to ask my father." Harper turned to Troy. "Mr. Kepler, you signed the transfer documents as the seller. You also provided a power of attorney granting you authority to act on Julian's behalf. Is that correct?" "Yes." "And you believed this was legal?" "It was legal. The POA was valid." Harper nodded slowly. "I've reviewed the power of attorney you filed. It grants you broad financial authority while Julian was overseas, but it does not specifically grant you the right to sell property titled solely in Julian's name." Troy's face went red. "That's a technicality." "No," Harper said. "It's the law." Faye leaned forward. "Wait, what does this mean?" Harper looked at her. "It means the sale may not have been properly authorized." "May not?" Troy said. "This is ridiculous. I acted in the family's best interest." "That's not the standard," Harper said. "The standard is legal authority, and based on what I'm seeing, you didn't have it." Tessa Rowe shifted in her seat. "I was assured the transaction was legitimate." "I'm sure you were," Harper said. "But that doesn't change the facts." Troy slammed his hand on the table. "This is insane. Julian wasn't here. Someone had to make decisions." "Someone did," Harper said. "You, but those decisions have consequences." She pulled out another document. "I also want to address the signature on the transfer deed." "Julian, is this your signature?" She slid the paper across to me. I looked at it. The signature that was supposed to be mine. "No," I said. "That's not my signature." "Are you certain?" "Completely." Harper made a note. "I had a handwriting analyst review this. Their conclusion matches yours. The signature is not Julian Kepler's." Troy's face went pale. Faye's voice cracked. "What happens now?" Harper folded her hands. "If Julian chooses to contest the sale, the transaction could be reversed. The buyers would be refunded, the property would revert to Julian's ownership. Faye went pale. But the money would need to be returned. I don't have it. Harper didn't respond. Troy stood up. This is garbage. You're listening to him over me? I'm his father. That's irrelevant, Harper said. Irrelevant? Troy's voice rose. I kept this family together while he was off playing soldier. I didn't react. I just sat there, watching him. Harper's expression didn't change. Mr. Kepler, sit down. No, I'm done with this. He pointed at me. You ungrateful, Troy. Faye's voice was quiet. Stop. He turned to her. What? Just stop. He stared at her, then at me. His face was twisted, angry, desperate. Harper cleared her throat. Julian, do you wish to contest the sale? The room went completely silent. Everyone was looking at me. This was the moment, the point of no return. I looked at Troy, then at Faye, then back at Harper. Yes. Troy's face collapsed. Julian, please. We can fix this. We can work something out. I didn't answer. Harper made a note on her pad. I'll file the paperwork. The buyers will be notified. The funds will need to be returned within 30 days. Faye buried her face in her hands. Troy sat down slowly. His hands were shaking. Tessa Rowe gathered her things and stood. I'll be in touch with my office. She left without looking at anyone. Harper closed her folder. That's all for now. Julian, I'll send you the next steps by email. Thanks. She nodded and left. It was just the three of us now. Faye looked up. Her eyes were red. Julian, I'm sorry. I didn't say anything. Troy was staring at the table. I was trying to help. No, I said. You were trying to control. There's a difference. He didn't respond. I stood up. I'll see myself out. Faye reached for my arm. Please. I pulled away. You made your choice. I walked out of the room and didn't look back. Outside, the air felt different, cleaner, like something heavy had been lifted. I got in my car and drove away from the title company. I didn't go back to the rental right away. I drove around for a while, letting everything settle. They'd tried to take everything from me, and I'd just taken the first real step toward getting it all back. The next day, Mason called. It's done, he said. The reversal is in motion. The buyers were understanding. They'll get their money back. The title will revert to you. Good. How are you feeling? Fine. Julian. I'm fine, Mason. He was quiet for a second. Your father's been calling me. What does he want? To talk, to negotiate, to make this go away. Tell him no. I already did. Good. Mason sighed. He's not going to stop. He's desperate. That's his problem. Maybe, but desperate people do unpredictable things. I'll handle it. Okay. Call me if you need anything. I hung up and sat down on the bed. The phone buzzed, a text from Faye. Can we talk? Please? I deleted it. Another buzz. Troy this time. We need to meet, just you and me. I turned the phone off. I spent the rest of the week in the rental room, waiting, thinking, planning. Every day I checked my email. Harper sent updates. The buyers had been contacted. They understood the situation. The refund process was starting. Everything was moving forward. On Wednesday, I got a voicemail from Faye. I listened to it even though I knew I shouldn't. Julian, please, I'm begging you. I don't know what to do. The creditors are calling again. I thought this was over. I thought I was free. Please call me back. I deleted it. On Thursday, Troy left a message. Julian, we need to talk about this like adults. You're being unreasonable. This affects the whole family. Call me. I deleted that one too. I wasn't being unreasonable. I was being clear. They'd made their choice. Now they had to live with it. The reversal went through on Friday. Harper sent me an email confirming the transfer was complete. The house was mine again. I drove over to see it. The family who'd bought it was already gone. The driveway was empty. The porch was quiet. I stood on the sidewalk, looking at it. My house, I walked up to the front door. The lock was still the new one. I didn't have a key yet. I'd get one made. I stood there for a minute just looking at the door, the fresh paint, the new hardware. It looked different, but it was still mine. I turned and walked back to the car. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Julian Kepler? Yeah. This is Detective Morris with the County Sheriff's Office. I need to ask you some questions about a property dispute involving your father. What kind of questions? Allegations of fraud, forgery. We'd like you to come in and give a statement. When? As soon as possible. I can come in tomorrow. That works. I'll send you the address. He hung up. I sat in the car, staring at the phone. Fraud. Forgery. Troy was in real trouble now, and I was going to make sure he stayed there. I drove back to the rental and spent the rest of the evening preparing for the statement, going over the timeline, making sure I had all the facts straight. I wanted to give Detective Morris everything he needed, every detail, every document. I wasn't going to leave any room for doubt. By the time I finished, it was late. I lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, I'd tell the detective everything, and then there would be no going back. The sheriff's office was a squat building on the edge of town, gray concrete, small windows, a parking lot full of patrol cars. I went inside and told the receptionist I was there to see Detective Morris. She pointed to a hallway. Third door on the left. I found the office. The door was open. Morris was sitting at a desk, typing on a computer. He was in his 50s, balding, with a tired face. Julian Kepler? Yeah. Come in, close the door. I did. He gestured to a chair. Sit. I sat. Morris pulled out a notepad. I want to go over the property transfer. Start from the beginning. When did you first learn about the sale? The day I came home, my father and sister told me on the porch. What did they say? That the house was sold to cover my sister's debts. And you didn't authorize this? No. Morris made a note. Your father filed a power of attorney. Were you aware of that? He mentioned it once, but I didn't sign anything. Did he ask for your permission to sell the house? No. Did he inform you before the sale? No. Morris nodded. I've reviewed the documents. The signature on the POA doesn't match your signature on file with the DMV or the military. I know. Your father claims he acted in good faith, that he believed he had the authority. That doesn't make it legal. No, it doesn't. Morris leaned back. Here's the situation. Your father could be charged with fraud, forgery, unauthorized use of a legal document. Depending on the prosecutor, he's looking at serious consequences. I didn't respond. Morris studied me. You don't seem surprised. I'm not. Why? Because he did it. He knew what he was doing. Morris nodded. Okay, I need to ask. Do you want to press charges? I looked at him. What are my options? You can press charges. He gets arrested, goes to trial, could face penalties, or you can let it go. No charges. He walks. And if I let it go? He's free, but the record stays. If he does something like this again, it'll come back. I thought about Troy, about the way he'd looked at me in the conference room, the way he'd collapsed when Harper explained the consequences. I want to press charges, I said. Morris nodded. Okay, I'll forward this to the prosecutor. How long? A few weeks, maybe a month. Okay. Morris stood and offered his hand. Thanks for coming in. I shook it and left. Outside, the sky was gray. It looked like rain. I got in the car and drove back to the rental. My phone buzzed, a voicemail from Troy. I listened to it. Julian, please, we need to talk. I made a mistake, I know that. But we can fix this. We're family. Please. I deleted it. Another buzz. Faye. Julian, they're saying Troy might face serious consequences. You can't let that happen, please. He's our father. I turned the phone off, I sat in the rental room and thought about everything that had happened. Troy had stolen from me. He'd forged my signature. He'd used my absence to take what was mine. And when I came home, he'd laughed. Now he was going to pay. I pulled out my phone and called Mason. "Julian," he said. "What's up?" The prosecutor's moving forward. I gave my statement. "Good. How are you feeling?" "Clear." "That's good. That's really good." "Mason, I want to thank you. For everything." "Don't thank me yet. This isn't over." "I know. But still. Thanks." "You're welcome. Call me if you need anything." I hung up and lay back on the bed. It wasn't over. But it would be soon. 3 weeks later, Mason called. "The prosecutor's filing charges," he said. "Fraud, forgery. Your father's been notified." "When?" "This morning." "And Faye?" "She's not being charged. She didn't sign anything. She just took the money." "So she gets away with it?" "Legally, yes, but she's going to have to deal with the debt again. The money's gone." I nodded. "What about Troy?" "His attorney is trying to negotiate a plea. They want to avoid trial." "What kind of plea?" "Probation, restitution, community service, possibly a suspended sentence." "No time served?" "Not unless he refuses the deal." "What do you think he'll do?" "I think he'll take it. He doesn't want a trial. He doesn't want the publicity." "Okay." Mason paused. "Julian, there's one more thing." "What?" "The title company is holding a final review meeting. Harper wants to close the case officially. She's asking if you want to attend." "When?" "Friday, 2 o'clock. "Will Troy be there?" "Yes, and Faye. It's a formality, but it's also a chance for them to see the final documentation, the proof that the sale was fraudulent." I thought about it. "I'll be there." "You sure?" "Yeah. I want them to see it. I want them to understand exactly what they did." "Okay. I'll be there with you." "Thanks, Mason." I hung up and looked at the calendar. Friday, 2 days away. I spent Thursday preparing, going over everything one more time, making sure I had copies of every document, the will, the deed, the forged signature, the prosecutor's filing, everything. Friday morning, I woke up early. I dressed carefully. The same button-down shirt I'd worn to the first meeting, the same dark jeans. I wanted them to see me exactly as I'd been that day, calm, prepared, unshakable. I drove to the title company and parked in the same spot I'd used before. Mason was waiting in the lobby. "Ready?" he asked. "Yeah." We walked down the hall to the conference room. Harper was already there. So was Faye. Troy arrived a minute later. He looked older, thinner. His suit hung loose on his frame. He didn't look at me. Harper gestured for everyone to sit. "Thank you all for coming," she said. "This is the final review meeting for the property transfer case involving 412 Maple Drive." She opened a folder and pulled out a stack of documents. "I want to go over the findings one more time, for the record." She looked at Troy. "Mr. Kepler, you filed a power of attorney claiming authority to act on Julian's behalf. However, that authority did not extend to the sale of property titled solely in Julian's name." Troy didn't respond. Harper continued. "Additionally, the signature on the transfer documents does not match Julian's verified signature on file with county and federal records." She slid a document across the table. "This is a forensic analysis comparing the signatures. The conclusion is clear. The signature was not Julian's." Faye looked at Troy. "You said it was legal." Troy's voice was barely a whisper. "I thought it was." "You didn't think anything," I said. "You knew exactly what you were doing." He looked at me. His eyes were hollow. "Julian, I'm sorry." "No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught." Harper cleared her throat. "The property has been returned to Julian's ownership. The buyers have been refunded. The sale is void." She looked at Faye. "Ms. Lenton, you received approximately $78,000 from this transaction. That money was obtained through fraudulent means. You will be required to return it." Faye's face crumpled. I don't have it. Then you'll need to make arrangements. How? I can't. That's not my concern, Harper said. But the debt is yours. Faye started crying. Troy reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Harper turned to me. Julian, do you have anything you'd like to say? I looked at Troy, then at Faye. Yeah, I said. When I came home, you laughed at me. You told me I was homeless. You treated me like I was nothing. Troy opened his mouth, but I kept going. You used my absence. You used my trust. You took what was mine and gave it away, and you thought I'd just accept it. I leaned forward, but I didn't. And now you're both going to live with the consequences. Faye sobbed harder. Troy's hands were shaking. Harper closed the folder. That concludes this meeting. Julian, the property is yours. The keys are ready at the front desk. I stood up. Mason stood with me. I walked to the door, then stopped and turned back. Troy was staring at the table. Faye was covering her face with her hands. They looked small, broken, and I felt nothing but satisfaction.